Hey, everybody, welcome back to a summer edition. Yes, finally into the summer edition of 20 minutes. And again, just time to try to catch several of the coaches while we can. Certainly understand it is a busy time for everyone around IHSA football. And boy, what a good feeling that is. And just the fact that we've had a quote unquote normal off season. I know we'll get into that with our next guest. And to that regard, let's bring him in. He is the second year head coach of Carl Sandburg High School. Many of you have known him for quite a few years now, former head coach of Phillips, the Wildcats program. He turned around in the city of Chicago. Now he's out in Orland Park at Sandburg, and Troy McAllister joining us, sir. Good morning. Appreciate you taking time, and no glasses. It's a little bit different of a look for you.
I had the sunglasses on earlier, so I just took them off and didn't make the transition.
No problem. No problem. So again, I know you're busy. I know it's summer. You just talked about as soon as you're done with this, you're heading out to a 7-on-7. Haven't really talked to you since you made the switch from Phillips to Samberg. We'll certainly get into the 2021 season in a little bit, but how has that transition for you personally gone? And I mean, what have been maybe some of the bigger adjustments you have had to make since being at Phillips versus now being at Samberg? Just fill us in. How have things gone for you?
It's been a pretty smooth transition. The start of last year was difficult just due to timing. We really didn't get started with summer ball till July, so we kind of lost a month. So that was a tough transition from that part of timing. But overall, the year was positive. Off season's been really good, and then the summer has been great so far this year.
Yeah, you mentioned the timing and just not being able to really hit the ground running as early in the summer as you wanted to. You kind of look at how your season went, and it all of a sudden kind of looked like, okay, maybe after. I think everyone's going to point to the week 6, the win on the road over Lincoln Way East is maybe a turning point. But boy, it sure seemed like, Troy, once you hit about the midpoint of the year in 2021, your program, your kids really bought in, and that's what really that run got you into the state playoffs. So was it a matter of just things starting to come together, maybe trying to get caught up on the calendar a little bit, to when you guys finally made that transition? You seemed to like flip the switch and you really took off after the Lincoln Way East one.
Yeah, I think just in terms of getting systems and structures in place, it took a while to get it fully rolling. And then once we got it going, it went well for the second half of the season. We had our struggles in the first half. But other than the Lockport game, I felt we were very competitive. And there's just a lot of things go into that. It's just teaching the young men how to win, how to compete. And then also, I think part of it, we utilize a version of the Feed the Cats football. So it helps us stay healthy, and it helps us, maintain throughout the year. So as the year developed and teams get beat up, banged up, I felt we were relatively healthy and guys were playing up to the speed they were capable of. And that makes a big difference late in the season.
Fill us in on the Feeds the Cat program for people that out there that don't realize what that is exactly. Fill us in on it.
Yeah, it's kind of new school thinking in terms of we're all about speed, and we want to increase max speed. We want to stay healthy. I'm a firm believer we want to be healthy and fast on Friday nights. And if we're beating each other up all week long, if we're running gassers, doing all these extra things that supposedly make you tougher, they don't necessarily help you become healthy and stay healthy on Friday nights.
How does this go back to your Phillips days? How far back does this go? You really bought in?
We kind of dabbled in our Phillips days unknowingly. And just in terms of our practice, we've never practiced a long time. I've never been a believer in, 2.5 hour practice or anything like that. We anywhere from an hour and a half to an hour 45 max. We get in, we get out, get our work done, and then let the rest and recovery begin for the young men. And then obviously last year we're kind of implementing it a little bit. And this year we're full-fledged, even in our summer ball. Our goal as we started summer football and we put it out to our players, I've had a lot of long talks with Tony Holler, who kind of has created this. Yep. And our goal is from day one in June till the end of the season that we will get faster throughout the year. And so far, so good. Obviously, when games begin, it challenges you. But I really feel that with the plan in place, that's a definite possibility.
Yeah, and it's worked. It's worked for your program so far. Overall numbers, program wise, overall appeal, I've got to imagine the way you finished the season certainly didn't hurt in those regards. How are the numbers and, retention wise, been able to keep a lot of those kids that originally came out? And have you been able to attract more kids overall in the program?
Yeah, we're up 40 kids from this point last year. And that's without, our freshman numbers are solid right now, but that's even without the influx that happens on the first day of school and first week of school. So we're in a much better spot this year than we were last year, and that's exciting.
Still scrambling for helmets? Are you doing okay on that regard? That's been a big issue this
I don't think there's a team across the state that's not scrambling at this moment for helmets. We're all kind of waiting on our new shipments to come in. We were lucky to have our reconditioned helmets in on time. But it's an awkward situation, and where we have every single helmet in our program is handed out, with several kids still waiting.
First year going in, were playoffs expectations? I know you always have very high expectations of everything you put your hands in and get involved with. Did you see playoff team that first year you took over, or did they even surprise you maybe a little bit?
That was my first meeting with our seniors from last year. When I got the job, was I wanted to give them a state playoff experience. So I said, our goal is state playoffs. That's it. That's what we're trying to do. They kind of looked at me crazy, but you could see the sense of, hey, we want to experience that. I think in total they had 6 varsity wins over the previous 3 years. So they were hungry for it. And then when you looked at the talent we had, a little bit of mixing and matching and getting the people in the right spots, there was talent here. And we were able to utilize that well. And the young men bought in, and they earned the state playoff berth last year.
We talked about the start of the year. At one point you were 1-4. So, I mean, how hard was it to keep them involved and keep them continuing to buy in before you finally had to turn around mid-season?
Yeah, obviously our conference schedule's not easy. And it's a challenge to week in, week out. There's no off weeks, and you got to really get after it, and you have to be on top of your game. But I think the young men were bought in. Were they down? Sure. When we were 1-4, they were down, and the Lockport game was a tough loss. But they were hungry. You had Lincoln Way East coming back, kind of with nothing to lose. The rest of the season with nothing to lose, because we had to win out. And they bought in, and once they got the taste of success and victory, we went on a nice run.
You knew going in how tough the Southwest Suburban Blue Conference was by reputation. Now that you've been through it for a year and you look at the success that the conference had, for a good thing, and maybe not such a good thing, Troy, you've hit the conference maybe at what I think might be a peak period right now as far as overall conference strength. I mean, you mentioned your Lockport loss. Okay, you lost to the 8A state champs, last year. Okay, a lot of teams could say that. You look at the advancement that, obviously Lincoln Way East year in and year out is a state power, and Bolingbrook's got tons of kids, and HF's got tons of talent as well. How good is this conference, and especially compared to what you thought it was going to be?
It's probably more challenging than I even expected. Obviously, with Lockport having the season they had, and they're still building and still growing. Lincoln Way East is Lincoln Way East, right? There's not many better programs over the past decade plus. And then with home at Flossmoor and Bolingbrook, you've got 2 traditional power teams that have talent across the board and great coaching, great facilities, whatever you need to say they've got. So you week in, week out, you're getting the best, and that's a good thing to have.
You mentioned facilities, and when you think of Samberg, and I think over the years that, you're in an Orland Park area that has great talent, has great kids. But in a lot of cases, Troy, you've seen it, they go elsewhere. You've got a ton of private schools in your backyard that are poaching kids all the time out of your program. Has it simply been an approach of, we need to keep these kids here? And are you winning those battles, and how difficult have some of those been?
Yeah, I think that's the approach, right? Like, there is talent in our backyard and we have to keep it here. We've developed a great relationship with our youth program, the Orland Park Pioneers. We're giving full access to the Pioneer program, to the young men in the community to see what we have on a daily basis. And then obviously the more we win, the more people want to come around. So that we've just got to hold up our end of the bargain there and keep doing that. And I think it'll just slowly trickle more and more people coming into the program and giving us, more and more talent on the front end. But in the end, we're still developing young men. We're taking boys and making them into young men, and we still have to develop them. And that's what we're doing here.
Are there aspects of being at Phillips that you miss these days at all? Is there anything? I mean, I've got to think the people right off the top, but outside of that, are there any other aspects that you miss from being at Phillips?
I think any football program you're in, you miss the camaraderie that exists, and obviously the relationships that developed over the course of time. They're special. They were unique, and you just, sometimes you miss just being around the people that you spent years with, right? I think that's anyone. You miss being around people you spent a lot of time with, and then obviously, in any high school, you've got kids for 4 years. So those bonds and those relationships are constantly turning over, but you miss developing those new relationships with people.
Looking ahead to this upcoming season, you're in the summer now, getting to know your team a little bit better. 11 returning starters, 8 back on offense. So Troy, I got to imagine right off the top, you got to feel pretty good about your offense this summer going into the season.
Yeah, this summer has been much different offensively. Kind of the installs are review. And that's a big plus to have. Last year was starting from scratch in terms of install. So this year we're a full year ahead. Quarterback's back, which makes a huge difference in Christian Evans. He had a really great offseason, and he went through the whole schedule last year, playing all the opponents. Now he's got that experience, those reps under his belt, and we're excited to see where we can get to.
Give us some of those other impact names to watch. I know up front on the offensive line, Zach Barrett is a kid whose name I've been hearing mentioned more and more. Who else are some of those names that maybe people need to keep an eye on this coming season?
Yeah, I think if you just look at our O-line, we have 4 out of 5 starters back. You got Ryan Johnson at center, Eric Mitchell and Jason Walls at guards, and then Zach Barrett at tackle. I think it was the East game last year when those guys were put together. And they just exploded together, and they're great guys, and they bond well. Offensive linemen, as they do, they have their own unique bonds, and these guys are just like that, and it's great to see them develop over time. And then obviously we're bringing back Walter Davis at receiver. He had a breakout season for us, and we're excited to see what he can do senior year. And then we've got 2 new running backs that were backups last year in Cottrell Thompson and Brian Harms, who we're really, really excited about. They had some meaningful reps last year and did well with that. But now they're going to get more and more, and we're excited to see what they can do. Defensively,
as we mentioned, just 3 starters back, but what are you counting on out of those 3 returning starters? And Troy, maybe a couple of names of kids that we should keep an eye on that might be able to rise up the depth chart here on the defensive side.
For sure. I think you look at Mike Rydell at defensive tackle, coming back. It's nice to have someone up the middle to kind of lead a new defensive line in other areas. And then you've got Harrison Meyer at safety, who's had a great season last year, and we're excited for him this year. He's an all-conference player, performer. And then I think in the secondary, we're excited with the secondary we have. It's probably on paper more talented than what we had last year. But there is some inexperience, but there's some guys that fit the mold for what you want out of your corners and your safeties. So it's a big group for us. And that linebacker, I will say, I think we have one of the fastest linebacking crews in the state. We've got a couple guys, Nate Biscuit being one of them, who can really, really move. And they have a chance to impact the game of football for us significantly.
Looking at the schedule, like your non-conference schedule, I mean, you start off against Prospect, a team that in 7A is solid every single year. Glenbrook South, I believe, as well as the other. And then good old Andrew down the street. I'm sure you learned about that one really early in your tenure.
Yeah. So our non-conference we like. We're at Prospect this year, which will be a nice road trip to start the year. But they're challenging games. There's no easy wins there. And then you get into a rivalry game with Andrew. It's at our place this year, so we're excited. Last year we were able to beat them at their place. So I know they're going to be hungry. And they're an up-and-coming program as well. They've got a bunch of talent and a great coaching staff over there.
No doubt about it. You mentioned before about the conference and the rival schools, and you mentioned facility. It's kind of strange to sound, but Samberg might have, facility-wise, some of the older facilities in the conference. Is there any kind of master plan out there as far as, I know Samberg not too long ago did some things obviously in the school and did a big renovation within the school, but facility-wise, Troy, has there been any talk about maybe looking at some of the stuff that you guys have and maybe updating or refreshing anything?
Well, our baseball field just got turfed last year, and I think as you look at, we're a 3-school district with Stagg and Andrew, so that's occurring at their places now. And it's kind of like each year they just keep adding a new project. So I think as that goes along, more and more things get updated and added, and it is exciting to see what the future holds.
You've had a somewhat normal off season. It's been a while. So how has that been? Have you gotten to know your family? Last time I talked to you, I think you had a newborn, and that newborn's not a newborn anymore. So I mean, how's the actual off season been, and what have you been able to do a little bit differently compared to the last few years?
Obviously, getting back into some morning workouts this off season was nice, just because it's we have a bunch of multi-sport athletes. So it's sometimes tricky finding time to get speed workouts in or do different things. And we were able to do some morning stuff, and that we weren't able to do the last couple of years. And that was great. And just seeing the young men in the program every day at school, it makes such a huge difference when you're trying to build a culture within a program to see each other every day and, build those relationships, check in with kids to see how they're doing, how life is. And I think that's something that's been missing for the last couple of years, and it's nice to have that back.
Hey, before I let you go, and again, I always appreciate you taking time to talk to me and to just fill us in a little bit on what you got going on. We'll talk about your coaching staff a little bit. When I go through that list of assistant coaches, I see obviously what you would expect, a combination of some of the guys that you've brought over from Phillips, and along with some longtime names at Samberg as well. How has that transition gone? How has that meshing gone? And for the most part, still the same staff from a year ago?
Yeah, for the most part, it is the same, most of the same staff. We've got some great people in the building here at Sandburg. And, last year with the quick transition, I didn't do a good enough job of getting the assistant coaches prepared to be able to do their job effectively. But having this off season and a full summer, we're in a much better spot in terms of just program wide having things in place that we need to make all coaches successful. And you look at, Andy Gerhardstein, our longtime defensive coordinator here, is unbelievable. He does a great job preparing the young men in the program. And then even this year, we were able to add D'Angelo Darif, former head coach at Al Raby, to coach with us. So that's a big one in terms of just a coach with a bunch of experience and going to benefit the young men in our program.
D'Angelo, as you mentioned, though, terrific addition. And obviously there's those relationships you had back in the CPL to bring a guy like that on. One other thing before I cut you loose and talking about CPL and what's been going on, and I'm sure knowing you still keep a little bit of an eye on what's going on. I just noticed, guy was an absolute legend at Hubbard. Chris Patterson, long time, has come back, and now I believe he's taken over Dunbar program. Talk about guys like Chris James that are at Morgan Park. And are we starting? And I know that there's been some others as well. Are we starting to see that next line of young, what we knew as younger guys coming in and taking over the CPL programs, and how important is that really, I think, for the future of the conference?
Yeah, I think coming out of a pandemic, it's a struggle in the city during the time, just with all of for any number of reasons.
Yep.
I think a lot of schools now are trying to increase numbers, trying to get kids back involved. And that's anywhere across the state, but I think even more prevalent in CPS. So to get young guys, obviously CJ's been there a few years at Morgan Park, but he's great at building relationships and he's great at getting kids involved. And I think Chris Patterson, you're going to see the same type of thing at Dunbar, taking a program with low numbers and just getting more and more kids to take part. And I think it's the new age of coaches in CPS. And you've got Sinkyu Turner at Kenwood, Joe Winslow at Phillips, guys that are, have come through CPS, played there, understand, the old school mentality that has existed and knowing what needs to change and what needs to be done to make programs more effective.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I've said this for years. You need a strong CPL. I don't care what anyone says. You've got to have a CPL that can go out and get better and compete and be able to keep football going, because to me, that's a backbone of everything we do with IHSA. You've got to have CPL able to kind of hold that stuff up. Hey, enough of that, my friend. Congrats on so far the success at Samberg. Continue. Good luck. And look forward to running in. You just might see me hovering around Orland Park one of these days. Just might.
Appreciate you having me on today.
All right. Troy McAllister join us. And again, just thanks for watching, everybody. Stay tuned. All kinds of ridiculousness and preseason previews and what have you coming your way. So thanks again, everybody.